Howdy, my name is Sam Carlton. I am a web consultant from Tulsa. I build most recently Jamstack sites and websites like that. Um, I want to do something fun. If something resonates, or like you really like it, feel free to drop some lightning bolts in the Twitch chat just as a way to interact, and let me know that things are going good. What I'm going to talk to you guys about today is how developers are notorious for not knowing their value. Let me switch on my presentation right here real quick, and really undervaluing themselves. If you guys have done this for long, you know that occasionally there'll be side projects that come this way. If you're entirely independent, then you're really dependent on the pricing that you charge for projects. So what I'm going to talk to you about is how to get paid what's fair. So just diving into it, first part of this is the vetting the clients, and this is a kind of a tricky process to navigate. It's like, well, aren't the clients picking me? And it's one of those simple but very important things that you have to flip that mindset. Again, it's like you're undervaluing. There's literally, like Rebecca just talked about, there's entire companies dedicated to just finding good developers. Like there's so much value that you have. And so you have to come at it of a process of like, no, I'm seeing if the client's good enough to take my work. Be professional enough to ask them why they want to do this and listen. So this is coming back to having the value for yourself, but also being a professional about how you're communicating with clients and saying, hey, look, why do you even want to work with me? Have you guys tried something like Upwork or Fiverr? And the funny part about that is that might be terrifying. It's like, well, what if they say no and they're like, what's Upwork? And they end up using Upwork instead of you. That's actually a very good thing. And as a professional, you have to be willing to have the moral consistency to see if somebody thinks Fiverr or Upwork would do better. We all know those things you get mixed results. But you have to, if somebody wants a cheaper option, you have to offer them the cheaper option because you should be the more expensive option. And just asking them and being upfront with this thing, and then basically what this is called a why conversation. It's a term coined by a guy named Jonathan Stark, and you ask the reasons why the client is wanting to do this project, and it's an interesting, it flips the dynamic again, turning it around. There was a deal on Instagram the other day. Somebody was asking, how do I get clients to see my value? And it drove me crazy because you don't. You ask them why you're valuable. And that's by having this why conversation. You say, well, why not use a pre-existing product? You want to build a video chat app? What's wrong with Google Meet or Zoom? Why do you want to do this now? Why not wait 6 months? Maybe they'll say, oh yeah, we could wait 6 months. But usually there's a reason. And then why me? Why did you pick me for this role? Like, how, why not? There's other developers that do this. Figure out, who they're looking for. And then the next thing is you have to find the business outcome that they're looking for. So if you feel good about them, you feel like they're a good client to have, then you have to find the outcome they're looking for. And the outcome they're looking for is not coding. Business outcomes go one of two ways. It's either creating money or decreasing expense. And every client that has ever hired you for work is wanting to do one of those two things. Sometimes there's like higher goals that are like, well, we're nonprofit and we want to like feed the poor, things like that. And those clients do exist. And if you find them, you want to hold on to them. But the majority, like over 90% of clients, they're wanting to do, even the nonprofits are wanting to either increase money coming in or decrease money going out. Next step is pricing structure. This is This is one of my favorites. This is how you price, how you structure when you're asking for the money. And this is one of my favorite ideas. The first thing you start out with is you ask for 100% upfront. That is you ask for 100% of the money upfront from the start. And what this does is this is actually some people, they'll go, they'll charge at the end of the project, or they will ask for 50% up front, 60% up front, and 40% at the end, or they'll break it up like car payments. But that's okay to do. But if you offer that at the beginning, then you're immediately giving away a negotiation point. So if the way this goes in most of our heads, you say, yeah, let's do 100% up front, and they say no, now it's a negotiation. Okay, well, can you do 50% up front? What's amazing is that the first time I tried this, they said yes. They were like, okay. And I started, and I got 100% of the money right out of the gate, and those people got a great website. Next step is from there, negotiate again, negotiate down. Discounts always a last resort. You don't discount the work you do. You if they want a smaller price, then they get a smaller result. That's the way that works. They don't get the same result for a lesser price. You're not Walmart. You don't discount things. You are a premium service provider. Avoid hourly as much as possible. And again, most of you have regular jobs, but when you take on the side projects, avoid doing hourly as much as possible. There's some that you can be avoided for like government work or educational, but when you can shift out of the deal of trading time for money, like use it changes everything. And there's all kinds of psychology you can use about why hourly billing is bad for service providers like coders. You can look up all kinds of stuff like that. Next step is proposals. So what this is there's kind of all kinds of ways to structure proposals. My favorite, and that doesn't necessarily mean it's the best. It's just the one that's worked for me the most. There are other ways of doing them that are probably just as good or better, but it varies from person to person. So my favorite is 3 prices. You have anchor price, target price, downgraded price. So the target price is what you expect to get paid for the project. And what that should be for side projects or freelance, how to determine that target number is pick a number that you want to make for that year from your independent work. And if that's $50,000, then divide that by 10, and that's $5,000. That's your target price. And what this does is it puts a premium, like you say, I only do 10 of these projects a year, and so they have to pull in a decent chunk of change. And 5,000 might sound like a lot for a software project, but it's really not. There's software projects that are hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so what you do when you structure your proposal, you have that target price, whatever that is, and then you have your anchor price. Your anchor price can be usually, my rule of thumb is 3 times whatever your target price is. And what that does is that puts into context everything else. They have to see that anchor price first. Because if you just give them one number, which I'm sure if you guys have priced projects before, that's the way you've priced it the very first time you did it. It's like you're basically giving them 2 choices: yes or no. Yes to this number or no. And there's nothing in between. What this does is it gives them 3 choices, and none of which are no. And they still have the option to say no if it's just not a good fit. But again, you're shifting it to your value. So anchor price should be 3 times to set context for the rest, and downgraded price should be maybe half or even a third of the anchor price. And what do they get for these prices? For the anchor price, it's basically, if money were no object, this is what I could do for you. Usually you'll have in your mind, like, oh, if I could really push it a level up, I could really do this for them. Put that in the anchor price. Put that like that next level thing. For me, like an example of that, if I'm building them a Jamstack site, that could be an app. Like we'll build a site and an app for it. And the closer to what the client wants, what their business outcome is, and helping to move that number. And it doesn't have to necessarily be a money number. It can be a number that helps shift that money number. but having that premium option. And the downgraded price is basically the target, the tutorial. You're going to essentially write up a tutorial on how to do the downgraded or the target price and provide it as a PDF so they can hire an Upwork or a Fiverr person. So, and what that does is that puts a value on your thinking. If they pick, so that means if they pick the downgraded price, you'll get paid half, but half of that value of the target price is your thinking anyway. And that's a whole other thing that is thinking through and understanding the value of your thinking through the code, not just your work. And so essentially you get paid half of the original ask to deliver a PDF, and it'll be good, and you'll provide some support for it, but you won't do any work with your hands. That's what that price is. That's what they're agreeing to. If your clients pick the top option consistently, that means you're undercharging. So this is another thing. Like, what do I charge? Well, you figure out that target area, and then you give them a proposal. And if you keep getting clients picking the top option, that means you're undercharging. If you're undercharging, raise your target price to the first price. Should just shift everything over, triple your target price, and then triple that is not your new anchor price. And then if they start backing away, then you can back it off. If they don't, then triple it again. So this is a real life proposal that I did. I want to give you guys a hard example to pull from. This is actually an old proposal I did. When I presented this to them, they picked the top option, and that was the second project in a row that they picked the top option. So that means that, what does that mean? I have to raise my prices, and that's really how that works. So just so now you guys know, I'm not just like making all this stuff up. This is a proposal that was accepted, and they picked for the top option. Meaning industry leader. They're going to get the best of my work. The site I was going to build for them was best in class. Like, it was 3 years ahead of what their competitors were going to be at 3 years from now. Something like that, where it's like, no, because nobody's going to build a Jamstack site for this industry. Next is contracts. I have a little to say about contracts, but not much. Again, a little bit before I get into this. I'm not a lawyer. None of this is official legal advice. Always talk to a lawyer if you have any serious questions about a contract. So my non-legal advice is contracts should only be a legal version of everything you've already talked about and nothing more. Everything you've already discussed in the proposal, everything like that, it's basically just legalese for all of that. Never sneaking anything into a contract that you haven't already discussed at some level. You own the work. Client has a irrevocable and unlimited license. So this is a licensing setup I like to do for my projects. If it's a bigger company, they may have a custom licensing that they want to do. But basically, this just means I own the work that I produce, which means I can reuse those coding patterns in other projects. And the client has unlimited. They can take my work and sell it. And that's the thing that happens. Sometimes people sell companies and they sell the work. They can take my work and post it to Envato and sell it as a WordPress plugin or whatever it is. They can do that. They have the right. I cannot take away their rights of usage for that work, but I retain the right to be able to reuse things that aren't specifically related to their intellectual property. If they want to, again, if they want to have extended rights, then that's a bigger price. That might be my anchor price. These are some resources that I love using. I love Bonsai for automated contracts, proposals, and invoices. As you get bigger, you may do custom versions of contracts written by a real lawyer. But Bonsai provides good templates for when you're starting out. Company of One. This is a book about talking through like how building a business that serves you as opposed to you serving your business all the time. I have a link for these at the end of the slide that you guys can check out, and you can check out the rest of those later. So what to do next? There's in the Techlahoma Slack, there's a channel that we set up called Pricing Work, where you can discuss more about this. If you have questions, you can message on there. If you want to look at the resources for this talk, it's just HTTPS, or it's just sam.lc, letter L, letter C, sam.lc/pricing, and it's a little Notion doc. of all the resources that I discussed in this, and some more things